close my eyes and the earth is carried away by the river.
Well, classically ayahuasca comes from it was used across Pan-Amazonia as a tool for healing and for as a sacrament to initiate people into various mysteries, to understand their environment, the forest. And remember, the forest was like everything to the indigenous peoples in the Amazon. So a very deep and intimate understanding was crucial to their survival. But more than an understanding of the physical dimensions of the forest, the ayahuasca gave them a multi-dimensional awareness of their environment. And in those ways, then they were probably more advanced than we are, even though on a technological and physical level they lived very simply. Ayahuasca itself is made up of two plants. Classically they use the woody liana vine, which is usually about as thick as a man's wrist, and grows almost like two serpents entwining around each other, or like the DNA helix, in fact. And the other plant is called Psychotria viridis, otherwise known as chacruna. And the indigenous peoples of the Amazon knew about the very special chemistry and synergy of these two plants together, because one, if you take either separately, very little happens. If you take the ayahuasca, you get a very mild soporific effect, that's the vine. And if you take the chacruna, nothing, in fact, will happen. It depends upon the properties of the alkaloids that exist within the ayahuasca in order to activate the alkaloids within the chacruna. And science only really found out about this mechanism of what they call MAO inhibition, or monoamine oxidase inhibition, which is involving the calibration of an enzyme within the stomach. It inhibits that enzyme and then allows the alkaloid dimethyltryptamine, or otherwise known as DMT, to enter into the brain. So physically, ayahuasca is a drink made of these two plants, and it was used across Pan-Amazonia by virtually all of the tribes, even though most of those tribes had never physically come into contact with each other. And without exception, all of those tribes, with their vast understanding of the various cornucopia of healing herbs that exist within the jungle, put ayahuasca at the very top. They call it Madre Ayahuasca. It's the mother of all herbs. And through the ayahuasca, the indigenous peoples were able to understand and learn about all the other various herbs and trees and shrubs and healing agents that exist within the jungle. So to answer your question, in short, the ayahuasca is something that was used by the indigenous people to understand their environment and to open up their multidimensional awareness of their environment. It was also used, similar potions were also used elsewhere in the world and at different parts of our human history. Similar alkaloids, wasn't called ayahuasca. For example, the Soma cults in northern India in the ancient Vedic days, they used something very similar, using different plants. And also the Sufi cults and the Mithraic traditions in Persia. So, in other words, this potion, this sacrament, or these alkaloids, which are actually also found endogenously within the body, in the pineal gland, in the cerebrospinal fluid, have been active in the evolution of human consciousness for a long time. Yeah. Well, that's very difficult to predict. What one can say generally is that it is a psychoactive medicine. And I call it a medicine because it's not, as some people think, a drug. A drug is something that has very predictable effects. If you take MDMA, for example, you can predict pretty much what's going to happen. Or if you smoke a joint or drink alcohol, you can predict what's going to happen. The neurotransmitters that I mentioned earlier that exist within the brain, that is DMT, and also phenylaline, which is very similar to harmaline, which exists in ayahuasca, already exist within the brain and are responsible for a lot of our dream activity at night and lucid dreaming and also for opening up the frontal lobes in what we sometimes call extrasensory perception. So what people can expect is as vast an array or a spectrum as the whole spectrum of human behavior. What essentially, how ayahuasca acts is it's like a portal into the astral realms or into the invisible worlds, what the indigenous peoples call the world of the spirits. And ayahuasca itself, the word means, aya means rope or vine, and huasca means to the deceased souls or to the spirits. So it's a rope or a pathway to the spirit world of the spirits. So it's a portal to the astral realms. Once one has opened this portal, the whole spectrum of existence is available. So what a person can expect when they drink it is, yes, they will experience a visionary state through the ingestion of these alkaloids, but the actual manifestation of that visionary state, or the ramification of that visionary state, has a lot to do with other factors. That is, the mindset of the person that's ingesting it, their beliefs, their ideas, their worldview, the way they feel about themselves and their environment. It also has to do with where they are, where they're taking it, set and setting. Like, you know, if you take it in a surgery in a hospital, you can expect very different results than if you take it in a garden. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there are other factors involved in what a person can expect apart from the actual drink itself. But in general, one can say that it will open oneself up to the inner worlds, and it will open up the visionary eye, what some people call the third eye. It will open up inner vision. How the healing occurs is when one ingests ayahuasca. In the jungle they call ayahuasca, affectionately it's known as la purga, the purge. In other words, most people can expect to purge, to vomit, to either it comes out this way or out the lower gate. Because ayahuasca is excellent at cleansing the body of toxins, any accumulated dross. For example, in the jungle it's highly prized as a way of managing parasites, flukes, worms, and so on. So it gets rid of physical toxins. And the shamans say that it's responsible for their good health and their long life. For example, the average life expectancy in the jungle is about 50, not much more than 60, because of the nature of the jungle and its environment. It's a pretty inhospitable place in terms of a lot of worms, flukes, all of these things, parasites. But the shamans classically live to 90, 100 because they're cleansing themselves of these physical toxins. The second way it works is on a psychic or an emotional and mental level, where it can rid oneself of all kinds of dross, psychic detritus, rubbish that we've accumulated through our conditioning and through what I would call wrong living against the way of nature. So in the purge itself, apart from cleansing the physical body and the stomach from all kinds of toxins, there's actually a letting go, a shaking off of any psychic material that is not actually serving you. So the purge itself can be seen like a little mini catharsis. A catharsis is where you dump something, you let go of something. And really the whole experience of ayahuasca is about let go. It's about surrender. It's about letting go of all that is no longer necessary. Stuff you've been carrying around for a long time that you don't even know that you're carrying around anymore until you let go of it. And then when you let go of it, there's more space for consciousness to be there, rather than caught up in holding on to all these things. So what ayahuasca does, how it heals, is by stretching the envelope of comfortability. Never more than you can handle. She knows intimately well what you can deal with, but she will always stretch the envelope and stretch the zone of comfortability to allow more consciousness to come in. So that's the way she heals. And to answer the second part of your question, who is this medicine good for? I would say that's a good question, because it's not for everybody. I don't feel it's for everybody. I feel it's a very powerful medicine. It's a medicine that is a tertiary medicine. In other words, it's like going to university. And in order to go to university, you need to have done a certain amount of schooling. You need to have gone to primary school, secondary school, and then you're ready to deal with the kind of work that you'll be doing at university. And the shamans literally call the medicine the university. They say, you have your books, your libraries, your university. This is our university. And indeed may they say so, because it's a holographic library. It opens up the Akashic records. It opens up the phylogenetic memories stored in the DNA, so that enormous amounts of information can be imparted from the medicine. And that's where she opens up as a teacher. First, she's a cleanser and a healer. Secondly, she opens up as a teacher. And she can open up the world of plants, the telluric world of minerals, the world of animals, of human beings, the galactic worlds. Multi-dimensional information can come through this medicine if one is ready. But one needs to prepare oneself. One needs to cleanse oneself first before she opens up as a teacher. So first and foremost, she heals by cleansing. Cleansing the body, the mind, and cleansing the spirit. So, in conclusion, I would say people need to have done some work upon themselves in order to approach this medicine. You need to understand that you create your own reality moment by moment, and that you're prepared to take full responsibility for who you are. If you can do that, then you're ready for the medicine. If you're not prepared to do that, or willing or able to do that, then it's best to do some other modality first before approaching the medicine. Wow. That's a big question. I am so indebted to the spirit of these plants, the spirits that work through these plants, because I owe what I would call my awakening to these plants. It's almost as if before the plants was just a preparation for me. And I love my life, every aspect of it. It's been a joy. But I see that the first part of my life, up until I found this medicine, was a bit of a playground. I was learning about things. I was working as, I did an honours degree in psychology, so I was really interested in those worlds, worked as a therapist for some period of time. I then became an actor and worked in theatre, doing classical and modern plays, and later I worked in film and television. And also, I have a great love for music. So a lot of my life was spent exploring music and writing songs and performing. But when I found the medicine, it seemed as if all these strands of my life came together under one umbrella. It's like it was my playground and my educational to do the work that I do with the medicine, because the medicine woke me up in a way that I was able to use these tools that I developed to work in the service of healing and transformation. The plant is an extraordinary tool for transformation, and for the transformation of consciousness, for healing, and for dissolving the veils of separation. Many people become entranced by the visionary aspects of the tea, and at first, certainly, that takes up a lot of your attention. But after a while, when you become, in a way, used to that topography, the more subtle aspects of the medicine become much more important and more apparent. And those more subtle aspects, as I say, the reconnection to all living things, to the awareness that Gaia is a multi-dimensional, interpenetrating complex of one enormous life form, of which we are all a part. And we as human beings are just walking, talking, thinking aspects of that one energy. So that awareness to me is ultimately healing and awakening. With that awareness, I believe that humanity can step into a whole new era and way of being. And I believe that that's the role that the medicine is playing, particularly in the West at this time. It's opening people up to that sense of unity and dissolving the veils of illusion and separation.